Good evening, everybody.
Hello, hello.
Welcome to the new and improved live stream podcast here, uh, now known as Critique Corner with me, Daniel Parker, and
And me, DB Fastbinder.
and yeah, we're hopefully everything will work out very well with this new format. We're looking forward to doing this. It's kind of been something that we've been talking about for the last couple of weeks. So yeah.
Yep. I mean, basically, to lay it all out there, we kind of realized that we were kind of circling back on some of the same topics again when we were just talking about generic writing or generic culture and things like that. And we decided, you know what, we should let's think about like what would we want to watch. And some of our favorite podcasts are this type of two guys going over the news of the week and providing color commentary. It also forces us to break out of our shells of referring to things we watched from 15 years ago or whatever
Yeah.
to
Yes.
actually engage with the culture a little bit.
Yeah. Be a little more current.
Yes.
Yeah. So to start off every show, we're gonna do what we'll call our thing of the week. So this is something that the two of us have been watching, or we've gotten into. It could be a movie we watched, or a TV series, or a comic book, or a manga, or a video game, or whatever it is that
Eh,
we were consuming that week.
If that we had interesting things to say about.
Yes. So DB, why don't you get us started with that?
All right. So, going to go ahead and share my screen here.
All right.
Here we go. All right. Item number 1, Jujutsu Kaisen 0. Which, boy, I managed to not stutter when I said jujutsu this time. That's impressive. So, uh, this is actually a movie that you can go watch in theaters right now. I saw it last Thursday with a couple of friends, and it was interesting. One friend I had watched the whole main series through. The other one had seen a couple of episodes but didn't really remember it well. And so to take a step back, Jujutsu Kaisen is a series that you don't watch that series for the deep and complex story and themes. You don't watch it for the well fleshed out and and very meaningful characters. You watch it because you're going to see some ridiculous characters fight monsters with over the top animated Mappa animated scenes. Mappa being the animated studio that made this particular movie. So it's like literally popcorn movie. It's perfect for that. And yeah, so the friend of mine who had watched it all the way through with me, we both understood what was going on. The person who had not seen it, he also pretty much understood what was going on. Be- Because it's actually it's based on from what my research, it's weird. Like for a lot of manga, they'll have what they call they'll do like an issue 0 almost, where the person is like making their pitch to the magazine because typically the way that it's worked historically over there is that you have like your magazine like Weekly Shonen Jump. And if you're trying to get in, you'll if you're an artist, you'll work your butt off and make a single chapter that kind of sums up the overall idea and energy. Energy, I mean, your overall like idea and focus of the series, and you put it out there, and then they vote on you. And if you make it, then you get an actual series.
Mm.
Kaizen 0 seems to be, from what I understand, it's like they got a pilot series, which is like a season 0 that doesn't actually feature the primary cast. It actually focuses around the secondary cast here. Although this guy here, I will admit that this guy's name has escaped me because he is a little bit generic. He's a guy who has insane magical powers brought to him by his dead girlfriend who haunts him. He is teamed up at this Jujutsu Kaisen school with a Panda, whose name is Panda. He is a anthropomorphic homunculus who can turn into a fanged gorilla panda. You have this guy over here who his whole thing is he like Black Bolt from Marvel Comics, where he can't speak normally, or else his powers afflict people. So he has to talk in nonsense, which is basically sushi ingredients. Like, you're like, how's it going? Bonito flakes. And then the most normal character, who is a badass uh, martial artist girl, who is really fun because she's a little bit tsundere for this guy, let's just say.
Ah.
And it's basically it's a one and done. You don't have to have seen the series to enjoy it. It is very nice on the big screen. Mappa is always a joy to watch animation wise, and this series is like, how to put it. You know those cheesy '80s action movies that are just so completely ridiculous, but they are so sincere. They believe in themselves and what they're doing.
Yes.
That is Jujutsu Kaisen in a nutshell. So if you
Yeah.
wanted to see like horror action with ridiculous, over the top characters, and you don't mind a little bit of a cliche plot, then it's worth a watch. Now, if you don't feel like schlepping your way to the movie theater to see it, it's probably coming to Crunchyroll in the next few months, so you can probably hold off.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's yeah, it sounds like a fun movie, fun series to watch. Definitely something I probably will have to check out here at some point.
Yeah, again, with the series, don't expect to ever really understand who characters are or what is going on, because this throws so much at you. But it's like it's a roller coaster.
Yeah. Very cool. Very cool. All right. Well, that's DB's thing of the week. Now I'll go ahead and share my screen here, if I can. Let's see. Uh, that's weird. Why can't I? Why won't it let me do that? Oh, here we go. Um, okay. Well, for some reason, I'm having a hard time sharing my screen here. Oh, no, it's because I got to go down here. I'm boomering it up here, first show, and I'm boomering it up.
That'll
Jeez.
happen. While he
Yeah.
pulls it up, we're here to ask the important questions. Like, is it just me, or did they change the tempo and pitch of that YouTube streaming countdown video? Because every time, if like that felt much slower and lower pitched than normal.
Uh, they either probably did that, or that could be my. I am using a new computer, by the way,
Okay.
so that could be it. I don't know.
Either way, I feel like it's like some sort of water torture thing where they're trying to make me snap. Like by
Yes.
making it just slightly, or gaslight me. They're trying to gaslight me, make it slightly different every time. So that like, is the countdown song different? No, DB, you're insane. Are you sure?
Well, we need to get an intro.
Yeah.
But
That'll solve all those problems.
yes, yes. All right. Well, okay. So my thing of the week here they are. uh, the manga I'll stick with the anime here. So my pick is Rent a Girlfriend, and this is a series I've watched a couple of times. It's it's your standard romantic comedy harem anime with a male protagonist who is he's not clueless, but he's not too bright. Um, so to take you through the story, if you haven't seen it, uh, Kazuya, he's that's the name of the protagonist. He's a college student, and his girlfriend, and this is his girlfriend, right? His ex girlfriend, right here, Mommy.
Who is clearly from Canada.
Yes. She breaks up with him, and so he's feeling lonely and sad. So he goes to the rent a girlfriend service, which is a thing in Japan. You can actually do this, but it's not. There are no hanky panky. Um,
I've heard of these. Like, there's a lot of weird play acting stuff in Japan. Like, I've heard of what do you call it? I've heard of cafes where you go in and the waitress flips a coin, and if it comes up head, she's your loving, doting girlfriend, and if it comes up tails, she's your ex who hates you so much. Heard about that one in a Perch podcast.
Wow. Well, that sounds like a fun evening. But yeah. So Kazuya rents this girl here, Chizuru,
Hmm.
best girl. Um, and they go on a date, and everything's goes well. But then he goes and looks at the website and does the rating, and sees all these other guys who've gone on dates with her and sees the ratings. He gets mad and jealous and gives her a 1-star rating because he's a jerk.
Oh no! Well, what you mean to tell me that he didn't? He didn't. He didn't. He thought he was exclusive with his rental girlfriend.
Yeah. um, but thank you, Bogdan. um, but yeah, so but then he goes on another date with her. They basically do the exact same thing, and he's just a total jerk to her the entire time. And then finally, she gets out of character and just tells him off. And he's like, "What did you expect was going to happen? That's the way it is." And da, da, da.
Right.
Yeah.
So the logical thing.
Yes, exactly. So, uh, despite that, she's like, "Okay, well, do you want to? We still have some time if you want to keep doing the date." But then Kazuya gets a call that his grandmother is in the hospital. So he takes Chizuru to the hospital, and grandmother sees Chizuru, and she's like, "Oh, who's this? Lovely lady?" Because with Kazuya's grandmother, it's all about continuing the family line, and and for him to get a girlfriend and eventually get married and have kids. And so she sees Chizuru, and Kazuya just flips out, and he says, "Oh, this is my girlfriend Chizuru," even though she's actually a rental. And of course, Chizuru just plays along with it. And as the series progresses, further hijinks ensue where they try to break up, but they can never break up. And they stay together, just for basically for Kazuya's grandmother's sake, and also for Chizuru's grandmother, because their grandmothers are actually friends.
Oh, that's awkward.
Yes. And so uh they not
What
only
do you do for money, Chizuru?
course,
Oh, customer service.
customer service, yeah. uh but yeah, uh so then as it turns out, Chizuru and Kazuya actually go to the same college. And of course, Chizuru goes to the college completely incognito. She braids her hair in ponytail braids and wears glasses. And then not only that, they live next door to each other. So
That's
it's one it's
holy coincidences, Batman.
yeah, yes, all these coincidences just thrown in there. But yeah, so as the series progresses, they try to go along as best they can, and they carry on the charade. And of course, this girl right here, this is that's Ruka, and she shows up a little later. And um yeah, she has a really mad thing for Kazuya, and she's a nice girl but a little clingy. And then the last girl right here, she's only in really only in one episode, and her name is Sumi. And she's one of these really shy, very
Oh,
cute shy girls that.
wilting flower type.
Yes. So but yeah, it's one of those shows that if you like this kind of thing, if you want to look at some hot waifu girlfriends, and and laugh at a totally inept protagonist, this is the show for you. And as I understand it, I believe season 2 is supposed to drop sometime this summer, like June or July.
So the question, I guess that answers my question. I was going to ask if he had rented to own any of them yet, but I guess not.
No. although although with Chizuru, maybe I would love to.
I mean, that's what I would call like the thing with all these series is it's almost always the first girl he meets.
Yeah. And although in this case it's the second.
Oh, that's right, because he had his ex.
Yeah,
But yeah,
because
they broke up off or before the show started, right?
right, yeah.
Those Canadians, eh?
Oh yeah. But yeah, I mean, it's on Crunchyroll. So yeah, if you this is something you want to do, something to check out,
It's free.
it's free. Yes. Let's see. Isn't this the manga where the guy gets off imagining getting um yeah. Yeah, it is. That does happen. It happens in the anime too.
Mm.
Yeah.
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 That boy ain't right.
Yeah. Good to see you guys.
All right. So,
All right.
speaking of getting, so,
Jeez. Yeah.
speaking of getting cucked, man, that was the best transition ever. Thanks, Chengus.
Yes. Thank you,
so,
Chengiz.
so there's been a couple of interesting blow ups in Hollywood this week. I must have been out of town, or apparently Will Smith slapped Chris Rock at some sort of awards ceremony.
Yeah. Yeah.
I hadn't heard anything about that. There certainly
No.
aren't millions of comments and videos about that.
Yes. Everybody. Yes. Everybody and their grandmother talking about it.
Yeah, certainly not that none of that happening.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
I guess the biggest lesson in there is do like you were told in kindergarten and keep your hands to yourself,
Hmm.
because sticks and stones may break my bones, but words are not a reason to completely take the focus off of winning your acting Oscar you've been trying to get for years.
Yes. Or everyone else's Oscar, that everyone else who won an Oscar that night.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, like, I could not tell you who won Best Picture.
It was the movie about the deaf girl, I think.
And the fact that you aren't sure about that and don't know the title of it, I mean, like, let's be honest. Like, I don't really watch the Oscars, but usually, just looking at Twitter and other places, there would have been like some headlines. Such and such wins this for the Oscar, or such and such wins this Oscar. Um, but in this case, it was just everybody slap, 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 slap. Will Smith, Chris Rock, Jada Pinkett Smith.
Yeah.
Uh, uh, just completely drowned it all out. But boy, if I was the director of Best Picture this year, I would be pissed.
Yeah. Yeah, I would be too. Yeah, it's sort of reminded me of I'm a football fan,
Mhm.
or at least I was in another, you know, not too long ago, not so much now, but uh and my football team is the Denver Broncos, and they won Super Bowl 50 over beating the Carolina Panthers. And after the Super Bowl, Cam Newton, who was the Panthers quarterback at the time, just was doing his post game press conference, and he was just pouting and sulking like a little baby, and really ticked me off because nobody was really talking about the Broncos winning the Super Bowl. They were all talking about Cam Newton being acting like a baby, and
Right. It takes away from the accomplishment.
yeah, and what happened with Will Smith and Chris Rock kind of it did that too, and it also didn't help either that Will Smith, like, in his acceptance speech, that's all he talked about was
Protecting his family.
protecting his. Yeah, he didn't talk about, he didn't thank the Academy. He didn't. I don't, at least I don't know if he did or not, but didn't really talk about the. You said, most of the time when they win these awards, it's like, okay, thank you to the Academy, thank you to director and producer, blah 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 blah, and all that, and political message, and good night.
Right. Yeah, I didn't actually watch his acceptance speech because, well, honestly, the slap was much more interesting than him actually winning the award for a movie that very few people actually saw.
Yes, yeah. Actually, I think his they his payday was larger than the box office gross of the movie.
Oh man.
Yeah,
But
but yeah.
but another story kind of zipped in under the radar too around the same time.
Mhm.
This is the one that we're going to talk about a little bit more because, like, let's be honest. While Will Smith has been in the DCEU as was it Bloodshot in Suicide Squad? Was that his
Uh,
character there?
Deadshot.
Deadshot. Sorry, there's a lot of generic shot names in the
Yeah.
DC universe. I'm pretty sure they have
Uh,
a Bloodshot too.
right. Yeah. Yeah. Floyd Lawton's his real name.
Okay. Um, and actually, it occurs to me that we've unintentionally, with one exception, all of our actor stories are DCEU adjacent at least.
Yes.
So, now first off, what I find amusing is that everybody picked basically the same image of Ezra Miller for their headlines. Him just dressed as the Flash in Justice League, looking completely confused.
Save one, then you'll know.
But basically, Ezra got into trouble for allegedly breaking into a couple's place, stealing their wallet and passport, and saying that he would, quote, kill you and your woman of ill repute wife.
Oof.
This is after a couple years back, he did this. I don't know if you'll have audio for this, but it communicates
Wait. Yeah.
itself.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
This happened in a bar in Iceland where now I have heard conflicting things about this over time. Where on the one hand, I've heard that it was either he attacked this woman in Iceland, but I noticed that she had like a big smile the whole way down, and I've heard that may have just been like some sort of actual play that was mutual on both sides.
Yeah.
So I can't I can either confirm or deny that. I tried to look for that. Either way, it doesn't look good.
No. No.
And
No.
then and this newest. Oh, by the way, just to go back for a moment, Ezra Miller identifies as non-binary and prefers the pronouns they them. If we screw up, that is not out of disrespect. That is more just slip of the
Making them.
tongue.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh, that's right. They also did threaten to kill the KKK.
Yes. And yeah. Hey, Durana. Good to see you, man.
Yeah,
And yeah, I don't. I have no idea what's going on in his head.
no. Ezra is an interesting individual.
Hmm.
Um, and there have been talks of an emergency meeting at Warner Brothers to talk about his future with the company, since you've got the Flash coming up next summer, and you've also got the new Harry Potter spinoff thing starring him, or
Right.
featuring him, I should say.
Yeah.
And there's also been some, so it's always behind the scene anonymous sources. One insider says Miller had frequent meltdowns during production last year on The Flash. While the insider stresses there was no yelling or violent outbursts, they described Miller as losing it.
Mm.
Ezra would get a thought in their head and say, I don't know what I'm doing, the insider tells Rolling Stone. Also, the sick here tells me that we weren't the only people who keep switching over to he.
Yeah.
But man, I don't want to psychoanalyze somebody who's only in movies I don't really care for,
Mhm.
because I know I'm going to be unfair because that's my exposure to them, right?
Right.
You don't really know actors.
Yeah.
Eh,
Yeah. And well, speaking of movies that he's been in, that I don't know how much acting they were doing, but what was that? I think it was called "We Need to Talk About Kevin." I think that's the title of the movie he was in, where he plays and Tilda Swinton plays plays their mother. And although it's a he in the movie, because it's his son, and he turns into somebody who does something very bad at a school. Let me just put it that way.
yeah.
And
Oh,
it
all the other kids better run, better run.
yes.
Okay.
um, yeah. And so I've never seen the movie. I've only seen clips of it. But I don't know how much acting they were doing, because it's like it was like. Yeah.
May have been a little bit of playing themselves a little bit.
Maybe a little. Yeah.
Yeah, at the risk of, I'm just gonna overgeneralize here a bit. Ezra strikes me as one of those people who had a very easy upbringing in their own way, or I
Hmm.
should say, maybe not easy. Easy is the wrong word. An upbringing without a lot of challenge or pushback. Uh,
Yeah.
uh, Spoiled, as you might call it, and then you take somebody like that, you shove them into the limelight. You have people who know who they are, and if you have somebody who's a little bit quirky to start with, you can get some bad results.
Yeah.
Uh, the impression I've always gotten anytime I see Ezra in an interview or anything like that is this is somebody who was never told no enough as a kid. Now,
Yeah.
is that accurate? No, like I just gave the previews. I'm speculating.
Yeah. Yeah. We could do a lot of armchair psychology with
Yeah,
this guy or this person. Um, ultimately, it also sort of reminds me of Shia LaBeouf in a way.
you are not the first person I've heard compare that to Shia LaBeouf. In
Yeah.
fact, I think it even happened around the same age where the breakdown just happens.
Hmm. Yeah. It's some people in Hollywood they can handle the limelight,
Mhm.
and I know for some when they get the limelight at a very young age, that
Mhm.
can you know do a number on them. Some of them turn out really well, some of them don't. For every Leonardo DiCaprio, there's a Macaulay Culkin. Um, you know,
Yeah, you wonder what percentage of the ones that turn out weird may have. I know that some Hollywood moms are very careful and keep their kids far away from anybody who has a casting couch, and some Hollywood moms say, "Yeah, we're getting ahead.
yeah,
Come on,
yeah,
fancy, don't let me down."
yeah. But yeah, all I can say is, as far as Ezra goes, I personally I did not care for him as the Flash. Um,
No, agreed.
and if this means that somebody else plays the character, I won't be shedding any tears. Um,
Yeah,
and
like just get the guy who plays him on the CW show.
yeah,
Yeah, just the CW shows as a whole aren't in great shape. Just cancel that show, bring him over to the CEU, pretend nothing happened, just like with Don Cheadle as War Machine.
yes. or Mark Ruffalo as Bruce Banner.
Right. Just one day he showed up and he was much curlier. So his
Yeah,
hair was much curlier. Then it's all good.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah, yeah. Act like nothing happened.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I do hope that Ezra gets whatever help Ezra needs.
Yeah, I do too. Yeah, because there's something up here that is not quite working too well for him.
Yeah. And boy, it's not like the DCEU needed any more controversies, right? Because it's like between release the Snyder cut and just this, that, and the other. It seems like they can't go 5 minutes without having something blow up in their faces.
Yeah, yeah. It's clearly being mismanaged. Has
Uh,
been. I would say has been from the start.
uh, Warner Brothers has been a weird company for a long time. You kind of hope that with that Discovery merger, I think that if we did finally get approval of that, I think they finally got approval of it. I hope that the Discovery guy can straighten things out a bit.
Yeah, yeah. Here's hoping. All right. Well, speaking of actors who are having trouble or having a difficult time for different reasons. Most of you probably heard about Bruce Willis. So, for those of you who didn't hear about it, he is retiring or stepping away from acting because he's been diagnosed with a condition called aphasia. Now, if you don't know quite, or you aren't quite sure what aphasia is, I'm going to read a little definition here from this one from the Jerusalem Post about where they're talking about Bruce Willis, but it's a disorder that results from damage to the parts of the brain that control language. It's usually characterized by difficulty in speech and understanding and other activities that involve language, like reading and writing. Um, People with aphasia may insert random words in sentences, be unable to find the words they're looking for, or take a long time formulating sentences. So, for somebody who makes their living off of learning and reciting lines of dialogue in a movie and trying to remember what they're supposed to do in a particular scene, um, that's not something they can, somebody who's suffering from that condition obviously couldn't do that job anymore. So it's really sad
Hmm.
because I've been following Bruce. Bruce Willis has kind of been a staple of my childhood and teens. I mean, from Die Hard and The Fifth Element was another. Fifth Element's another one of my favorites. I love that movie.
Multipass.
Multipass, yes, and he's actually uh, uh, of course he was on a before all of that he was on a sitcom in the '80s called Moonlighting, or no, well, it wasn't really a sitcom. It was a
What was it, a detective show?
yeah, it was a detective show. It was part comedy, part drama. It was, yeah, him and Sybil Shepherd.
Right, the
And
eternal will they, won't they?
yes, yes, and apparently they didn't like each other at all when they were making the show. But
Well, that's just called professionalism.
yeah, yeah. Well, what happened was, see, when they did the show, Sybil Shepherd was the well-known person, the name at the time, and
Oh, okay.
nobody knew who Bruce Willis was. But then, and so she thought that it was her show. But then I think it was like around season 2, it became his show.
Oh, the
Yeah,
Gilligan's Island syndrome, where the girl who played the redhead thought that it was her show.
yeah, yeah, and so obviously that led to a little conflict there. But
Mm.
and then he went and did Die Hard, and then he went from TV star to action hero. Did a bunch of action movies in the '90s, including well, he did. There were 4 sequels to Die Hard, although really there were only 2 that are worth watching. Um, and but obviously this is just it's not something you want to see from anybody, or want to see anybody going through. You know,
Right, and it sounds like there was almost like a bit of elder abuse going on, where they were like shuffling him around to different sets, do these little cameo appearances in movies, which is what he could manage.
yeah,
Uh,
yeah, it's yeah, and you know he couldn't, one of the other things too, like especially like in the last few years, he'd doing a lot of these like VOD, straight to VOD movies, and
mhm.
straight to streaming movies. And he'd have like maybe 10 minutes on screen, and he'd do like a week
But
of
there's
work.
his face on the cover.
Right, but yeah, his face is on the cover, and that generates clicks. um and for a lot of people were wondering, oh, well, what's wrong with him? Is he just lazy? He doesn't want to do any hard work or anything? But this condition was probably the reason for that, because he
Yep.
just had already, couldn't say his lines, couldn't do any scenes or anything. And I remember too, with like the Expendables 3, like he was supposed to come back to do that, but then uh it was the same thing. He wanted to cut back on his screen time, and but he also wanted to be paid more.
And Stallone has not gotten this far by signing checks.
Right. Yeah. So yeah, he got replaced by Harrison Ford. Although, given how the third Expendables movie did, probably wouldn't, probably wasn't not such a bad thing for Bruce Willis. But
No.
yeah, but yeah, it's I sincerely I don't know what sort of treatments there are for this condition, but hopefully he will, he'll get better, and live something of a normal life,
Right.
in his twilight years.
Right. I mean, you almost, it's one of those things where you realize that you got to be careful with yourself. I'm sure that he took more than a few blows to the head in the course of his career. So that probably, I would not be surprised if that's where that came from.
Yeah, yeah,
But
yeah, yeah. But but yeah, hopefully, like I said, he little things will improve for him. You know, and who knows? Maybe he might come back to acting at some point. But
yeah. Oh, I realized we do. Bruce was the one person who didn't have a DCEU connection that we were talking about. He was in Red, which was based on a DC graphic novel. There's our connection.
there's the connection. Yes,
I knew there had to be one.
that was actually a good movie.
Oh yeah, but Red
Yeah.
2 is all right too. Not as good, but
I didn't see the second one, but yeah, the first one, yeah, I love that scene with him and Carl Urban, where he and Carl Urban are fighting, and he says to Carl Urban, he said, "Did you train with Twideski?" "Yeah, I trained Twideski."
I forgot Kurt Urban was in that one. But,
Yeah, he's the CIA guy trying to get him.
right.
Yeah. Although Malkovich stole the show in that movie.
Oh yeah, no, he was the best.
Yeah.
He's also really good in the second movie. He
Ah,
was my favorite part there too. All right.
but yeah, but segue into another comic book
Yeah, so
talk here.
speaking of DCEU adjacent, the best Joker, aka Jared Leto, uh, had a movie that they've been trying to make for or trying to get it released for years. It just kept getting punted out and punted out. I guess they finally decided they couldn't keep punting it out anymore, and we finally have the story of Morbius the Living Vampire, which
Mm.
is not off to a great box office start. Less than 40 million this opening weekend for a Spider-Man movie, which I believe that's roughly the domestic take of Spider-Man: No Way Home in its third weekend, if I had to guess.
Yeah.
You can fact check me. I didn't actually look that up, but that sounds right from what I was seeing.
Yeah, it's yeah, those are very pedestrian numbers for a comic book movie,
Right.
especially one being put out by Marvel and Sony.
Yeah. Now it may be able to make its money back. Like if you take the listed production budget is 75 million, multiply that by 2.5, and that's what it needs to break even. Typically, assuming the usual cut from box office and and how much they make back.
Mhm.
Actually, that's international too. So yeah,
Yeah.
worldwide is some 90. Yeah, it'll probably break even.
Yeah, it can do it. Yeah.
Although it's not getting good word of mouth, and D Rhino is absolutely right. Nobody asked for Morbius.
Yeah.
And the thing is that Venom was a success, and so was Venom 2. And Sony's been in the position of wanting its own cinematic universe for a while. The
Mhm.
trouble is that Spider-Man, they have the rights to Spider-Man and a whole bunch of villains.
Yeah.
And Venom's about the only one who works as an anti-hero. So, I mean, Morbius, it sounded like was more of a horror movie. It sounds like it's watchable,
Mm.
just kind of
Yeah.
falls apart.
Yeah, I watched one little review of it. It was Andre with Midnight's Edge
Mhm.
did a little review on it, and he said it the problem with it is it feels like a superhero movie from 20 years ago.
It's like Catwoman era.
Yeah, Catwoman. Well, maybe not that bad, but but yeah, it certainly feels like a something, more like uh, uh and now Jerry.
Yes, truly a legacy to be proud of.
Yes. um
I have a hard time believing he was worse in Morbius than he was in Suicide Squad, though.
Suicides. Oh yeah, God. Yeah. But I would say it was probably closer to Ben Affleck's Daredevil, something kind
Okay,
of along those lines.
so watchable. You'll, if you're into the comics, you might get a laugh out of a couple references or enjoy a couple references, but it's not gonna change your life.
Yeah, yeah. Andre, he said it wasn't. He said it's not that bad, but it's not a great movie. It's not. He said a lot of the problem too. He said was with the editing. It just wasn't.
Hmm.
Apparently, I think the original cut of it was like 2 hours and 40 minutes or something.
Wha-
Something,
Okay,
yeah,
okay,
something like that.
Hollywood, you gotta stop letting directors write, or you gotta stop writing movies that take 2 hours and 40 minutes or 3 hours to tell, and
Yeah.
then cutting it down. You either stick with the long cut, or you tell them from the start, this is a 90-minute tentpole.
Yes.
You one option. Stop telling them that's one thing, and then Zack Snydering it up into the other.
Yeah. Yeah. Don't make them film that long. Film that much footage and then tell them to cut an hour out of it.
Yeah, I'm not the biggest fan of Batman v Superman, but the Ultimate Edition is so much better just because the movie actually makes a lot more sense.
Yeah. It was. Yeah. Yeah. I would agree. It's a definite improvement. And
Hmm.
I would also say that too with
Yeah, gotta get that blood in there. Yeah. Uh,
yeah. Jeez.
and apparently their next Spider-Man spin-off movie is Craven the Hunter, which no, stop.
Stop
Cra-
it.
Craven was like a gag villain from the '60s, who they did a really good Craven's Last Hunt move or comic book in the '80s, and then they should have let him die, but they didn't because it's comic books.
Yeah.
And he cannot carry a movie. Morbius, to my mind, had a better chance of carrying a movie just because it's a vampire story. You can tell stories about vampires.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay? But just for comparison, there's a decent chance that let's see here. There's domestic. I hate the new box office mojo, but I looked up Jujutsu Kaisen Zero on the numbers, and it's made like about 100 million worldwide. Although that because it's like counting the Japanese market,
Oh, okay.
but we might live in a world where this silly popcorn anime movie makes more money overall than a big
Morbius.
budget Morbius movie.
Oh, wow.
It's definitely more profitable because they basically already had the team together from the TV show. And it's just like, okay, animate 3 TV shows and you get the nice episode treatment budget.
Yes.
So that thing is already absurdly profitable.
Yeah. 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 To go back to Jared Leto, I will say, like, I actually I kind of like his kind of like him as a musician. Like some of his, especially the early 30 Seconds to Mars stuff. Like
Oh, he was in 30 Seconds to Mars?
he's the front man.
I did see. I was not aware of that. To my mind, he just popped into existence one day playing the worst Joker.
No, he's been around for a while. Yeah, yeah, he's the front man lead singer on 30 Seconds to
Oh,
Mars, and he
well
was
then, I'm glad I didn't say anything like, "Man, Jared Leto has never made anything I enjoyed." I've enjoyed some of their songs.
yeah, I do too. I like some of their songs, and I'm trying to think of another movie. Yeah, he was in that. I think he was in that Darren Aronofsky movie about the drug addicts back in like the late 90s, early 2000s.
So maybe not having to stretch himself too far, like Ezra playing a school shooter.
Yes. But what happened was I think he took he took a break from acting to focus on the music, and then
Mm.
He did that movie, Dallas Buyers Club, with Matthew McConaughey, and he won the Oscar for that. And then that was going to be like his, uh, yeah, yeah, Dallas, yeah. And then that was supposed to be like his resurgence. And then I think he got Joker after that in Suicide Squad. And then it was just like, okay, why do we like this guy again? And then he was in Blade Runner 2049. Barely in that movie, and he wasn't that. I didn't like him in that either.
And Warner Brothers is not greenlighting good sequels.
Yeah, and
Matrix 4, anyone?
Yeah. We did not need another Matrix movie, especially one where Neo has amnesia.
Yeah. So, anything else we want to talk about as far as kicking Jared Leto while he's down? Or the DCEU while it's down, for that matter?
Yeah, no. Well, no. We could probably save that for another show.
Yeah. Right. Why kick the DCEU when it's down? We could be kicking down DC and Marvel Comics when they're down.
Yes.
There are a lot of channels out there that talk about the relative sales of manga versus anime, or manga versus American comics, and we are one of them.
Yes.
Boy, I totally flubbed that delivery. Oh well.
That's right.
Anyway,
right, Requiem for a Dream. That was the movie. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's been very interesting the last few years tracking the relative performance of manga versus American comics. Like in North America, comic books are at an all-time high. Like if we look at this, we're talking a unit growth from 2003 of 5.5 million to 30.7 million, which that's six-fold increase, or not quite, but 5 and change increase.
Mm-hmm.
But if we zoom in, and I hope that this actually scales. Hooray, it did actually scale properly. If we look at this year-over-year increase, 18 million, 30.6 million. Like that's insane.
Yeah.
That is completely insane. That is not quite doubling, but it is very close to doubling.
Yes.
And that's being led by a couple of things. Now you'd think that with like the biggest movies in the world being Marvel and to a lesser extent DC, that they'd be seeing a halo effect. No, they are not.
Nope.
It's all Dogman and manga.
Yep.
Like the top, and you also have like Babysitter's Club and things like that. And then you start getting down here, and My Hero Academia Volume 1, which is not a new comic. That has been on the shelves in America for many years now. 162,000 units in North America in 2021.
Wow.
If you take a look at the people by best-selling, Dav Pilkey, who does Dogman, 5 million. But second place, hey, that's a name that we mentioned in our most recent manga review, as the creator of My Hero Academia.
Yes.
Koyoharu Gotoge, Demon Slayer at 1.5 million for all books combined. And let's see, and to get down here, and then you just like have a huge slew of Japanese names.
Yeah.
Junji Ito, horror, manga guy. Let's see how far we have to go down here before we find a name I recognize as an American comic writer. Gabrielle Epstein is the Babysitter Club person who was up there before. Hiro Mashima is a Fairy Tale and Eden Zero.
Right.
Let's see here. More Japanese names. Robert Kirkman is the first name that I recognize as an American person, and he had a boost because he had Invincible come out on TV, and of course, The Walking Dead is a perennial bestseller. So that's a lot of Japanese names for the top American, top American everything.
Yes.
So it's like, are we ending on a sour note or a high note? Depends on if you prefer Batman or One Piece.
Yeah. Well, if I had to choose between today's Batman and One Piece, I would probably choose One Piece.
Truth be told, I would probably still choose Batman, but I'd be very selective about it.
Yeah, yeah.
Also, One Piece did recently reach more lifetime book sales than Batman, which consider that Batman had like an 80-year head start or 60-year head start or something like that.
Yeah, yeah.
It's it's man, it's one of those things where you if I was the guy who's about to take over Warner Brothers, heads would roll. Like I don't care how good Jim Lee is at drawing Rogue in a bikini. That's not even my character. He's out from DC Comics at that point.
Yes, yeah, yeah, yeah. Batman was good. I still haven't seen that
Yeah,
yet.
yeah, I'll probably watch it with my dad on HBO Max when it comes out. And that
Yeah,
movie is actually doing pretty good though.
yeah, yeah. I'll probably HBO Max that too because I don't sitting in a movie theater for 3 hours doesn't really appeal to me right now.
No, uh, maybe it was a shorter movie like what we were just suggesting a minute ago.
Yeah, but yeah, it's it's a really dark time for American comics. In terms of just and I agree with you 100%. Like if if I got into Marvel or if I was running Marvel or DC, yeah, I would clean house.
Right.
Yeah,
And it's not even necessarily it's not even necessarily the quality of the actual content is one thing, but clearly there are channels for sales and distribution that they are just not taking advantage of.
yeah, yeah, and it's that it's not that's not good. Not good business, and it won't make
Mhm.
it's not gonna help you in the long run.
Yep.
Yeah.
it's it's just kind of shocking.
Hmm.
Like I've been hearing for a while how good those numbers were. I completely underestimated just how ridiculous the numbers were. Like here's Marvel's first inclusion on the thing is this Miles Morales thing that they're selling through Scholastic, and apparently, let's see here, sells 4 times better than any other graphic novel published by Marvel, and is in fact more than 10 times better than Marvel's own Miles Morales bestseller, Spider Verse Miles Morales. I don't think this is even made by Marvel proper. I think this might be one of their IDW spinoffs or something. I
Yeah.
cannot confirm, but it's just how
Yeah.
do you how do you do it? How do you take the best free advertising in the world and squander it?
I it's uh, yeah, it boggles the mind. I think part of me, I mean, it's easy for us, if for one of us to say, oh, it's it's because of politics or because of whatever. I honestly think that they're just creatively bankrupt at this point.
Right. Like
You
you
know?
can have stories that are preachy. You can have stories with an obvious cant to them,
Hmm.
but like a oh, I don't see how anybody could read Watchmen, for example, and not get, huh? I think that Alan Moore doesn't care much for this Richard Nixon fellow.
Yeah.
But that does not detract from the book.
Right. Yeah, you can do that, and it's part of it, but it's subtext. It's
Hmm.
not
Not text.
it's not, yeah, it's not the text. Yeah, and it's it it's one thing to create like a new character. I don't have a problem with creating a new character as long as they're well rounded and they have they're relatable in some way, and uh, you care about what happens to them. And right now,
Mhm.
it seems like all of these comic book characters that they've swapped out. They swapped out Peter Parker, and they swapped out Tony Stark, and et cetera, et cetera. And the people they're replacing them with, nobody cares about.
Because why would you care about them? Everything is already great for them. That's actually before I happened to see this thing about the comic sales, that was much more interesting. What our other topic about kicking DC when they're down was this round robin thing, which they've done for 2 years in a row now, which is basically fans can vote on what story they want to get made. It's already a flawed system because you're basically making a bunch of creators, like you don't say who the creators are during the first round. You only find out in the second round of voting. It's like maybe you accidentally voted against your favorite creator. Like, maybe you like, Wildcat versus Hawkman and Hawkwoman. I like me some Hawkman and Hawkwoman. Oh no, my favorite creator was on that Wildcat pitch. I'd rather read my favorite creator on this story than my favorite characters on this story.
Mm.
But there's one of these summaries here. Da, 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 da. Actually, no, that was a different thing. That's my bad. It was a description of a new replacement character where they're bringing in Blade's daughter in the Marvel comics, where they described her as basically being, oh, she's got her life figured out and everything is great, but it's hard being so great. Yeah, like it's like there are stories to be told about high functioning people who struggle because of the expectations put on their shoulders, but you got to do something with it.
Yeah, that's Michael Burnham in Star Trek Discovery.
Yeah,
Like, oh, she's just so great at everything, and it's so hard for her life is so tough because she's just so great. Ah!
right. Now, like the thing that you do that's interesting with a character who's so great is like you build them up, then you take that away and see who they still are at the end of it.
Yes, you take them down a peg.
Yeah,
Yeah, like what happened with like Thor and Thor.
yeah. That was a great example of you have a character who seems to have everything in the world. You take it away, you find out that he would still be heroic even without the hammer.
Mm-hmm. You know, Peter Parker and Spider-Man: Homecoming. When he's he tells Tony Stark, I'm nothing without the suit, and he says, well, if you're nothing without the suit, then you shouldn't be wearing it.
Yep, it's just basic storytelling, which manga does better than American comics at this point. I mean,
Yes.
I'd love to have a Spider-Man comic I wanted to drive down to the store to pick up every week because I still love Spider-Man deep in my heart, but I've just accepted that they're probably going to muck it up somehow, even if there's a good run.
Yeah. And yeah, and he's you don't want to see a character you love being just taken through the ringer like that.
Right? Neglected, even if not abused.
Yes.
Oh well, make mine manga.
Yeah. And yeah.
I contributed roughly. I spent contributed roughly half of that increase last year.
Yeah.
Me and my friends.
Yeah, I may have I threw in a few bucks there too. And I will say another thing about with manga and Japanese creators, they're not afraid to draw beautiful women.
Which is appreciated.
Yes, and yeah, but well, if we think we've run through our topics. Should we do some Q&A?
Yes. Anybody have any questions about any of the topics we discussed, or see if we have a thought on any media that you might have seen?
Yeah, yeah.
If we don't get a question, you'll just show that trailer again, and you'll have to see
Yes.
Jessica's fine ass. I mean, that's.
Yeah.
Do you want that?
Yes, most people would say yes. And
That's
yeah. And yeah, they're not afraid to get dark. That's true too.
yeah. D. Ryan points out they're not afraid to get dark, which it's weird. Like DC Comics is like aggressively dark a lot of the time, but in like the most immature way possible.
Hmm.
You, you know what I mean? It's like it's. I think Chuck Dixon has said it's almost like they're embarrassed of the characters that they have, and they want to prove that they're serious.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because like when you think about it, DC does have the goofier characters overall than Marvel, because it's 30 sensibilities versus 60 sensibilities, right? I mean that's
Hmm.
gonna seem more contemporary to us.
Yes. Yeah. And yeah, it's show the trailer again
Show
in
the trailer,
in a minute.
giving people a chance.
Yes. Yes. It's
Well, all right. I guess we'll wrap it up and show that trailer.
yes. All right. Well, thank you everybody for watching. We really appreciate it. Appreciate you coming out for our this new and improved show that we've got going now. If you've got any like suggestions or anything that you'd like to see us do or see us talk about, feel free to leave that in the comments section.
Oh, I just had a question texted to me. Will the trailer eventually have a movie?
Well, I don't know. Well, maybe
if
one day, but
if you and 100,000 of your friends back Angel's Awakening,
yes,
then a stretch goal movie, animated movie.
animated movie. Yes, yes. I would love for I would love to. Yeah, I would love to see an animated movie, and I'd love to see an animated series of Magpie Wizard.
Yeah, that one day.
Yeah, one day. But yeah, if you yeah but yeah leave a like if you like the stream. Subscribe,
Comment.
comment. Subscribe if you haven't already. Hit the bell for notifications. And if you like the stuff we say here on the stream, maybe you'll like the stuff that we write. Um, Guardian Angel, which was of course the trailer that everybody's been talking about. The link to the mailing list is in the description down below.
Yep. And if you don't like what we had to say and you decided to spend your time taking clips out of context to try to make us look bad, I don't know. Thanks for watching, I guess. I'm amazed that you bothered with us.
Yes. Yeah. Thank you. Yes, we appreciate it. And
We appreciate the hate watch.
yes, and also links to all of DB's works are in the description down below, including his Patreon, where you'll be able to get some early access to early access to Magpie Wizard chapters.
And also the odd bit of waifu art.
Yes. All right. Well, that's all we've got. Thank you again for tuning in, everybody. And here comes the trailer. See you next week.
Oh no.
Ah.